You're live.
Alrighty, welcome to the inaugural episode of Trans.Missions, our Google Hangout series devoted to connecting the transformational community at home. Each episode is going to feature artists, musicians, festival organizers, activists, and speakers dedicated to connecting fans through music, exploring and understanding different cultures, and creating a more sustainable future. I'm your host for these panels, Anand Harsh. And today we're joined by the Searching for Beauty tour featuring Rain, Phutureprimitive, Caeli and Stephen Kaminanda. Rain, you just completed your first week of the tour. How's the road been treating you guys?
It's been a lot of fun, actually. The turnouts have been solid. The stage, I'm really happy with how the stage has turned out. Getting a lot of good feedback about that. Getting the little kinks that come up along the way worked out, and yeah, it's been great so far. I'm really happy with it for the first week of what's going to be a 5-month tour. It's a great start.
That's a long way to go. It's a long way to go. Caeli, this tour marks the first time that you've taken your new 3D mapped rig out on the road. How has that affected you both as a performer and also just the overall show? What have you noticed since adding this beautiful temple to your stage setup?
Oh wow! Well, the crowd reaction, I can always tell when something really crazy is happening with the visuals because everybody in the crowd will react, and that's so much fun for both of us. You know, it's like it feels like the whole experience has been brought to this new level of just new heights. Like so much that there's just so much going on now that we didn't have before with the video feedback and the 3D mapping and the stage itself, which is just gorgeous. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was really a lot of hard work for us to make it happen, and we had to do it in a really short time. So we've only just begun to start, like, sort of reaping the benefits of getting to enjoy it. And so it's still very early on. I'm still kind of, like, settling into, really just being able to be like, wow, look at what we've created, and not just worrying about all the little details so much. So yeah, I mean, these last 4 shows have just all been amazing, and the feedback that we've been getting is awesome. Like, I think people are really loving it.
Yeah, so we didn't get much rehearsal time before we hit the road, so most of the time I'm getting to see what it looks like for the first time when people are taking the video. I was like, oh, that's what it actually looks like up there. I don't fully know yet. I'm still getting to learn what it looks like. So, but what I've seen is I'm really happy with it.
Tell me about who you have running the visuals and interacting with you and projecting those animations and visuals, because there is so much inherent creativity in that, and there is so much interaction between the people you have working on that and you as performers on stage.
Well, the original team that we were going to go with weren't really up to the task, so we had to. We realized this only 40 days out from the tour, the beginning of the tour, so we had to start from scratch. And thankfully we were able to go with Kerry Thompson. He's an amazing artist, and we ended up going with a stage that he had built, and so he provided the stage, and then Ayahuasca did some augmentation to it to make it fully roadworthy, and then we went with Supernatural Factory out of Oakland. Specifically, Evan Glantz is the VJ who's on the road with us. We got Supernatural Factory to do some custom 3D video mapped animation, and then Evan's also adding a lot of his just sort of flair and live manipulation of the visuals that he does really well. And it was really fun. It was a lot of sleepless nights, huddling around a computer deciding what direction to go with this new stage that we had, and lots of deciding logistically how everything was going to work. And we knew we wanted to incorporate video feedback, where you basically have a camera pointing at the temple that's feeding back on itself. So every time Caeli's dancing in front of it, you actually see, it's kind of like a hall of infinite mirrors where you see her projected again and again. And so as she moves, it creates like a tracer effect of her dancing, which is sort of like a dancer-generated visuals. And we finally got that all sorted out. And yeah, there was a lot of collaboration to bring it together. And it feels so good that it's finally happening and that it's working. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Stephen, you're in your second week of touring in the Midwest, and it's always been assumed that people in middle America are slow to catch on to trends, and I can say that because I'm a Midwest boy. But are you getting the sense that the crowds are hip to what you and Rain and Caeli are doing?
Definitely. The vibes have been high in the first few shows of the tour, and people are excited to, I know that a lot of the audience has already caught a couple sets of Rains and maybe one or two of mine before, and definitely things are snowballing out here, and people are getting really excited, and yeah, you can get a sense of just kind of an accumulated energy out here. It's really nice.
Are there fans you're finding who are familiar with your work coming into it? Do they know about what it is you do and what you're trying to create? Have you sort of come into this scene already invited in and welcomed in by these fans in the Midwest in markets maybe you haven't even been to before?
Yeah, it's kind of like half and half. It feels like half people are seeing me for the first time, and half people have seen me at a festival before. And yeah, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of curiosity. And I know that when I'm out in the audience and the rain fires up for Rain sets, people are pretty wowed at the visual temple and the with Caeli performing, and people are, yeah, they're really into it. It's really exciting.
I also too. I'm curious to see where you're going to go. So we've done 4 shows so far, and every time while he's playing, the rest of us on the crew are talking about like, oh my God, this is the best I've heard him do yet.
Yeah.
And then the next night that happens again. So I think if he keeps continuing with that trend, and I think by the end of this next week, he's just going to shoot off into outer space, I think.
To sort of expand out from where we are, what you guys are doing with this tour and your vision behind it, Caeli, you spent a lot of time in this scene, for lack of a better word. Do you have your own theory as to why this transformational aesthetic is catching on, not just on the coast, obviously, but also across the country?
Well, yeah, I think people are really thirsty for it. I think it's the most wholesome kind of experience that you can have when you go out. Like we're so used to just like typical kind of top 40 mainstream club nights where it's more like just a meat market, and it's sort of just the traditional cultural like crap about what you're wearing and who you're with and all that. And in our scene, it's so like anti all of that. We're all about love and connection and self-expression and being who you really are, and it's so refreshing. I think that people, as soon as they get like a taste of that, like so often I talk to people when they have gone to their first festival or their first shows, they say, I've heard over and over again, they say, my life was never the same. My life completely changed. And it's like you don't even know that possibility exists until you experience it. And then once you experience it, like you can't really, you don't want to settle for any less. Like you can't really go back. I mean, having the experience of workshops and amazing music where people are just being totally silly and weird and wild and outrageous, it's like so comfortable and free. I think that feeling of being free is kind of like what we all live for, and also being understood and connected to each other. Like all of those experiences that we get to have at festivals are actually really special and rare, and you really don't get to have them in like normal life that much. So I think that we're creating these environments that they're kind of like almost like incubators, or like these microcosmic like temporary experiences of what life could be like. And I think that that's why it's so special to all of us. That's why people catch on to it so fast, because who doesn't want to live that way? It's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like when we're just, during the week, most people, they're at their 9 to 5s, and we all live in these individual boxes, and we're all sort of bred to be like individuals, and it's very much like, each person for themselves kind of thing. And when you go to a festival or one of these events, you get to surround yourself with people that all, have creativity to share. They have something to share, and you get to, I think you're given more freedom to express yourself in ways that you might not otherwise. And I think that's sort of where the term transformation comes from. It gives you the opportunity to let your hair down and just sort of be whoever you want to be, and through those experiences, transform yourself into a little more of who you really are, or who you want to be, or somebody maybe that you maybe might not be at all but want to become. I think that's sort of in a nutshell where, to me, that's, I guess, what transformational movement comes from. That's the idea behind it.
Well, and I think that for all throughout human history, we've had rituals, and it's really not until recently that the very basic traditional rituals of getting together with music and dance have just become, it's like the only ritual that people in mainstream America have is like going to a bar. And so when you start going to festivals or start going to these events, like they become these rituals for us, and people have all these breakthroughs and these experiences that do change them. And so it's like that I think that's a big part of why we call it transformational, is because it's so radical, because it's so different, and because the rituals that we're doing, like the ritual of dance, the ritual of just coming together around music and art and having the shared experiences, sharing our gifts and our talents and what we've been working on. All those rituals are kind of like initiations, like they're experiences that really do help us blossom and grow.
Do you think that part of that transformational process, part of what your audience is going through, is being forged in the fires of those club events, the EDM scene, the more commercial events? Do you think that your audience necessarily has to go through that to come out on the other side to find you? Or are you finding it's a more mature crowd? Or do you think that people of all ages don't necessarily have to have those experiences to come and find this music, to come and find these artists and find each other in the process?
I'd say both. I think it's different. I think the path for everybody is different. I think both of those is true. Depends on who you are and where you're coming from and what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
I would say it's very complex, and 1,000 different people are having 1,000 different experiences. There's a lot of congruencies, a lot of similarities between a lot of people, and I think just as long as there's movement within each and every person, and people are feeling open and free to connect and to share art, music, and dance, then there's some positive momentum happening within everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Rain, you put out the call to any social action cause, any advocacy group to set up shop at your shows. What prompted you to make that decision, to sort of open up your shows and say, come celebrate your causes with us, share your information at our shows?
I think I've been doing this for a little while now, and it's you have roughly an hour to 2 hours to you kind of have a soapbox. You have people's attention, and you have people together. And I started feeling like it's an opportunity to spread good in the world. And I figured the more people that have some type of intention towards sustainability or just general education on all the different things that we can learn on how to make a better planet for ourselves, it's a good opportunity for that, and so why not? There's so many good causes out there that I think are worth hearing about and learning about, and I think that putting them next to a group of people where people are coming out to celebrate, I think is a good opportunity. So why not share that information? I don't want to get to the end of my career and feel like I had this opportunity to create more positivity beyond the music that's already there, and like I didn't do anything with that. So I'm doing something with that, and the more I do this, the more I want to go in that direction. I feel like this is sort of hopefully just the start of what will be a continuing trend towards that.
Have you been approached by any group who you're maybe like, I don't know about what you guys are doing, or maybe completely harebrained ideologies that may be in stark contrast to what you yourself believe?
Well, I've been fielding all the groups that have been coming in, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what what people consider, like causes or not. I mean, there's a lot. Most things that come through, we are really excited about and want to get behind. Some things are, it's more like they're trying to raise money for something that they want personally. It's not so much for the greater good. And I think people are just kind of, if you give people an opportunity for a platform, even if it's not specifically what we're asking for, it's like so many people just jump on that and just try and take the opportunity. So there have been a lot of people that responded to the call for nonprofits that aren't really nonprofit, but most of them are. Most of them do have a really good intention.
Got it, got it. Stephen, along those lines, the germination for Trans.Missions actually came from, a small panel we did at Envision in Costa Rica earlier this year, and you were prompted to caution us against the corporatization of the Transformational Festival circuit. Are you happy to be part of a tour that is independently funded and doesn't bear the name of any entity of which you're not particularly fond?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's key that this movement is employed and employs like conscious funds and good money, like things that are done with virtue and just a good background. Like, I also just don't really see like things of this nature being brought under the spotlight of Red Bull or Coca-Cola. Like, it doesn't really match up, and it's kind of they demagnetize each other. I don't really see that being an issue too much.
I get it. I get it. And along those lines, Rain, you were able to do this, able to put this tour on, able to get this new stage built via crowdfunding. Is that the real model for this transformational world? Is that direct relationship between the artist and the consumer what really drives this movement, this one-to-one relationship where you can go to a show and shake the hand of a fan who helped put you out on the road? Is that what really drives this whole movement?
Well, before I even answer that question, because we're on that topic, I just want to say thank you to anybody that helped out or even just wanted to or helped share the fact that we were raising funds to be able to do this and take things to the next level. We would not be sitting here right now if it weren't for you guys, so thank you for that. Is it what drives it? I mean, I think that being able to connect with in both directions is only a positive thing. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the main driving force, but it's certainly an element of it. It's an interesting thing. It took me a long time to be comfortable to be able to sort of ask for people to participate, financially. I mean, it's hard times for people right now, and so I want to make sure that whatever people are donating to, they feel they're getting value out of. And so doing my best to make sure that happens is really important to me. I did one last year for my first music video, Lucid Dream. Really happy with how that turned out. And did one this year for the stage. I'm going to probably tour with this stage for a good year or two. The next year I'll probably augment it and add some more things to it, get a bunch of new content made. But I think it can be kind of wasteful to put a lot of money into a stage and then just tour with it for a few months and then toss it and make a new one. I think there's a lot of room for growth with that investment. And it's not something I want to do real often. I think in terms of looking around at other artists that are bringing production on the road, I feel like I started pretty early, young in terms of sort of the level that I'm at. I think most people that are doing it, I think are generally, you're a little further along, are making a bigger income. And so I wasn't able to do it unless I was able to get people to donate, which is again why I'm so thankful. And I feel like the merger of creating a visual element along with my music is something I've always wanted to do. I feel like my music is very visual to begin with, so to be able to help sort of guide that element of the evening is a real treat for me, and I hope that it's a treat for everybody else, because it's something that I think works really well together. I'm very thankful to be able to do.
Because you were relying on your fan base to become mobilized to really come and support you, does that make it that much sweeter to have this stage that isn't sponsored by Rockstar or isn't, you know, the Bud Light Phutureprimitive Temple? Does that make it that much sweeter for you to take something like that out on the road?
Oh,
not to say that wouldn't be cool.
No, that is so. Yeah, I hope that never happens. Bud Light sponsored Temple. Yeah, it's a you know, I think it's an example of the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. It's something that I couldn't have done alone. You know, it takes everybody being there. That's why at the end of the shows, when I'm going and shaking people's hands, one of the things I say regularly is thank you for coming out. It would be really awkward if I was performing for an empty dance floor, and that's what would be happening if people weren't participating. And I think that it does make it sweeter, given that it took a bunch of people to make it happen, rather than just something that I had the funds to be able to do myself. And I'm hoping that for those that participated and those that didn't, that it sweetens the deal as well. Yeah.
And while we're ragging on Bud Light, I'm wondering, Stephen, are there corporations that aren't evil that you don't mind seeing represented, you know, out in the circuit, either out on tour or at festivals? You know, companies that you feel like really represent the aesthetic that we're all striving towards, and don't just care about the bottom line, really care about the people, care about the environment, and are companies that you feel comfortable supporting, both with your music and with your dollars.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really think maybe corporation would be the right word. Maybe smaller companies, for sure. Things that advocate health and wellness would be things I would get behind. Herbal tincture companies, yerba mate, kombucha and jun elixir companies, raw chocolate, kale chips, all that kind of stuff.
Do you think that you have to be a vegetarian, that you have to practice transcendental meditation, that you have to do yoga twice a day to really be a part of the scene, or is it more inclusive than that? Are those just the things people see on the surface? What sort of makes these events beyond, you know, those surface things?
Yeah, I definitely don't think there's any specific ingredients that anyone needs to partake in. I think just a willingness to show up and to, you know, to connect and to be open-minded. I feel quite strongly that I want to, you know, as my career gets more and more involved, and I want inclusiveness is one of my main tenets that I want to have going on. The things I promote, being open-minded to all kinds of people. You know, I've always felt really strongly about connecting to my my Mayan astrology sign, which is a world bridger, and I've always felt really strongly about being a bridger and connecting to all different kinds of communities and people around the world. And that's why part of the reason why I love playing international festivals is because there's so many different types of people out there and so many different communities out there, and I love to see it all connect together. And there's, you know, like, I get sucked into a lot of like dialogues online, and I read a lot of things, and there's a lot of bait out there for haters to talk about the differences, but I'm more interested in the commonality and you know, the common threads that connect music and dance and art worlds and social activism and human rights. And you know, I want to see people being able to celebrate and feel free all over the world. And I don't feel at all that this is a scene or a bubble or a specific community. I feel it's more of a kind of an exploding celebration to be included for everyone.
That's interesting that you say that. I'm wondering, Caeli, you've been around these events and these artists for a long time now. Do you see there being a limit to the expanse of this because a lot of commercial mainstream success may be shirked because there's not a single that can be on the radio, big labels aren't picking this music up? Do you think that there's naturally some sort of limit to how far we can go, or do you think, like Stephen, that it's endless, that this music, these people, this art, this culture will be able to expand out into the greater mainstream understanding?
God, I certainly hope so. I mean, it gives me a lot of hope that Burning Man is as big as it is, and grows so much every year. And every year that all these big celebrities come, it seems like every year there's more and more like mainstream news covering it, celebrities going to it. That it's like I look at Burning Man as kind of being like the mecca, right? Or like sort of a centralized like event where a lot of the festivals, the smaller events that are happening, kind of seem like they're like seeds of Burning Man, or like they come like satellites, yeah, that come from this like sort of collective mass cultural experience. And so I think that I think it might happen. Yeah, I think that it could happen in our lifetime, maybe really soon. I mean, I remember when dubstep was first coming up, before it really got really mainstream, that nobody at that time would have said or believed that it could be on the radio, that Rihanna and Britney Spears and these kinds of people could have dubstep beats in their music. Like, I think that just looking at the popularity of dubstep alone and how much that became a bridge for our scene into these much bigger events and these much bigger like radio and television and all that. I think it is happening. I think it can happen. And I also think that there's probably going to be a lot of resistance within the community to that. There is a lot of resistance about it getting too big. Like, I personally like the smaller festivals better. Like, I don't think that it would be necessarily a good thing if every festival were to grow massively. I think that maybe it would be ideal if we just had lots of festivals all year round, but lots of smaller ones, more community-oriented, regionalized ones. And so I feel like it can grow, and it will grow, but maybe not in the traditional way where it's just going to suddenly like blow up and then like we'll have psytrance on the radio. Like, I don't think it'll like, I don't think it'll be like that. But I do think that it will grow organically and like grassroots style, to where the festivals that had maybe like a couple hundred people a couple years ago will have thousands in the next couple of years. Like, I do think that it'll grow, and it'll be really big, and it is already getting really big. It's just, I don't think it's going to be on the covers of magazines, and I don't think it's going to look the way that we're used to it looking. I think that we're going to redefine what that even means to be popular and to be.
Well, it is showing up on the cover of magazines. I mean, when Skrillex was on Rolling Stones recently. I think something important to add as well is that it is going to look a little different, because for the first time, artists are the ones that are controlling what music is released, how quickly it's released, who they get to release it with. It's no longer what's going to sell the most money and what is going to be the hottest single from that is no longer the main motivating factors in what gets released. It's artists that are making music that they want to put out there, and they get to do it. They don't have to get the approval of some record label mogul who decides if they're sexy enough or whether the tune is catchy enough. And that's that alone, I think, is having a huge impact. And I think that, I mean, that's obviously very artists definitely know that. I think that fans are catching on to that too, and I think that there's a lot of value in that, and that's going to help steer where things go. Things are going to be less processed. You're getting to hear things as it was meant to by the artist, and not some version that a record label thinks it should be. It's such. I'm so thankful to be a musician in this day and age where I get to be in full control of my music, and I get to decide when it's good enough to put out and how often I want to put it out, and be in control of my own licensing. It's such a. I'm so thankful for that. Bit of a tangent, but I think it's important nonetheless.
What I'm getting from you is I think you're saying that there are no more tastemakers. No big label's going to tell you what's going to happen. We're going to see more things like Beyonce just dropping an album, or U2 sneaking their album onto your iPhone. There's going to be these new creative ways to get the music out there, because now it's a totally different world. Do you think that this scene is a direct result of, let's just put it out there, the internet, the accessibility? Because there's nobody saying, well, that music's way too weird to be out there. You can still get it, and the people who want to get it are going to find that music. Is this just perfect timing, because now the people like us can connect and find each other and create these online communities that result in these physical communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've promoted a lot of events and festivals and artists, and none of it would have ever been possible without the internet, and particularly Facebook and Twitter, and the ability to target, to say, like, people that like these musicians and that have these kinds of interests and behaviors. Like, I want to reach them, and I want to only reach them in Arizona. It's like being able to get that specific. You really are able to find your tribe, find your community, and like you said, like the people that want to find it, the people that genuinely resonate with, whether it's an event or an artist or whatever it is that's going on, they suddenly have so much more access, direct access to it. They don't have to, like go try and find something on the radio that they like, or go to the record store and try and find an album that they like. It's like so easy. I mean, Pandora, for example, we'll do it for you. We'll figure out what you like for you and just make it that available. And I know that tons of Phutureprimitive bands have come through Pandora. Like, that's a huge vehicle for us. And so I think that I think you're right. I think it is because of the internet that this is all possible, and that we're able to have these organically grown grassroots communities where we're really genuinely connecting with people, even if we've never met them in person before. Something that I love so much is going to an event and meeting people that I've never met in real life, but that I've known through the internet for years sometimes, and it's like we've known each other forever. The comfortability is so there, and so I feel like it's like giving us this global family, this infinite access to. But we're no longer limited by where we come from or what culture we grow up in, or what we get exposed to. It's like we are really the sort of mycelial network, like the networking at this point is much more reflective of our genuine connections.
With regards to art, and I think just sharing yourself in general, the internet has largely leveled the playing field. You no longer have to get somebody's approval to be worthy enough to share yourself with people. You still have to be able to promote yourself, but the point is that you have the option to decide if you want to do that. You don't have to get somebody's approval or get somebody to like you or think you're good enough anymore. And I think that that's so valuable.
I wonder, Stephen, just like the bigger artists are freaking out and figuring out new ways to get their art to the masses, when we see the more commercial events, the bigger mainstream festivals adopt things like morning yoga, vegetarian options, these big sustainability programs, do you see that as pandering, or is it a sign of greater positivity? Okay, if they're taking a page from the little guy's book, that's great. That's a win-win for everybody.
I mean, I tend to see the positivity in things, and the silver threads, and if a big event like say Coachella ever had morning yoga, I'm pretty sure most people are going to be either neutral about it or take the yoga class themselves and be stoked about it. I don't see people being like, oh, I can't believe there's yoga here now. This place is going downhill. Like, um, you know, it is what it is, and it's a natural movement for things to get more inclusive, and especially with the response of what people are wanting, and like after decades and decades and decades, like even McDonald's started having salads. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh Jesus, people want salads, and they're like, things change, and that's the way it flows.
The minimum standard for well-being and just life and living in general is going up. And I think that's part of the benefit of being a connected world, is that we're getting to see how other people live and how other people thrive and make their lives better. And so I think that's helping to raise the baseline, the standard for what we accept as a good experience, whether it be a festival or a night at a club or anything we let into our lives.
I want to take the opportunity now to bring in some of our questions from our fans for you guys. I'll throw this out to the field because I think it's important, and I want to hear your take on it. All three of you actually. Pat Nordine asks, it's no secret that drug use is widespread at these transformational festivals. Is this a bad thing? Is it a good thing to have a place to express yourself and safely use drugs? Beyond that, do you think there should be workshops about how to be safe with drugs? I wonder what your individual takes are. Obviously, you've seen the gamut at the festivals you've either attended or played at. Caeli, let's start with you. I want to get your take on how much of an issue this is, or there have been people doing drugs at music festivals since the dawn of time, and it's just something that comes with the territory.
Well, people haven't been doing drugs at music festivals since the dawn of time. People have been doing drugs, drugs since the dawn of time. I mean, meaning that for every civilization, for every tribe, for every population of people, as far back as we can trace it, there is some plant or bark or root or something that grows out of the ground that is psychoactive in some way. And every tribe, I mean, there's this great book by Daniel Pinchbeck about this, where he travels all over the world and tries out, and he can't even get to the end of it. I mean, there's so many infinite numbers of plants and rituals where people get together and sing and dance and take something that is mind-altering, and that's part of their ritual. So, I mean, obviously we're not exactly doing that at festivals because a lot of the drugs are not just plants growing out of the ground. A lot of them are manufactured, and that's where it can get really dangerous. I mean, I think in a perfect world, in my perfect world, drugs would be legal so that we could know for sure that they're clean and safe, and there would be built-in protection for people. Like I think that every festival should have Dance Safe, the organization that tests your drugs for you. They have the Dance Safe kits. I think that like at Burning Man, they have the Zen Dome, where you can go when you're having a really bad trip, and there should be places like that at every festival. I believe, in a perfect world, it would just be that open and accepted, and it would be safe, or safer at least, because we would really be able to monitor people, and people wouldn't have to hide what they're doing. But I think that the thing is, when you're not using drugs with an intention, when you're just sort of lost and trying to escape, like the real underbelly and the dark side of our festival culture is that it can provide a place to really escape, and sometimes you go and you lose yourself, and it's like exactly what you needed, but sometimes you can just end up getting really really lost, and there's not always those support systems in place. And so I think it would be great to have workshops that teach people about intentional use, and I really think it would be awesome for people to become more self-aware of why they're doing it and how they're choosing to do it, and just knowing your limit, like really understanding what it is that you're putting in your body and what it does to your body, and like having workshops that would teach people that would be awesome. I think trying to pretend like it doesn't happen or just tell people not to do it, like that's not going to work. It's obviously such a big part of the culture. So I would really like to see more transparency and honesty around drug use, where we could really, like, people could become more informed. I think that would lead to a much safer, in general, collective experience of it.
Yeah, I agree. Stephen, I'm wondering, part of Pat's question revolved around alcohol. I know you've played alcohol-free events before. Could you tell me about how you perceive the differences between, an alcohol-free ecstatic dance, for instance, and, a regular show at a bar, which many of your shows are?
Well, I don't have any really strong opinion judgments, but from my observation from my life as a performer and somebody on stage and on the dance floor, I've been involved or dancing or going to events since the late 90s, and events that don't have alcohol are a lot more cohesively focused on the music, and the dance floor is a lot more in a real mythological, theatrical experience together, where everyone's really dropped into the vibrations. There's a lot more distraction at clubs and bars. There's a lot more different groups of people chatting and not paying attention to the music, and that's all good and all, but it definitely makes a really special event when the entire room is focused on the music, and the loudest thing you can hear are people's feet banging off the ground, more so than conversations and stuff. It definitely, lends itself to a really specific magical experience. And I think, festivals, when you play in a dome at 1 a.m., alcohol is not really a major factor. The club shows, they are what they are, they're a part of the whole thing, especially in the spring and the fall, get some tours going and to get some more momentum. Because a lot of people do show up to clubs, dance and listen to music, and it's a part of their continuation with the experience. And might set them up for that magical event the following summer when they see you at a dome at 3 a.m. And they don't have to focus to hear the music over the clang of beer cans and chatter. But going back to that question about drugs in this community, and I feel really strongly that I want to encourage people to involve moderation and to strategize their experiences, and not necessarily go to a 4-night festival and feel like they have to do stuff 4 nights in a row. I like to encourage people to pace themselves, pick a magical night where the lineup suits themselves for 6-8 hours in a row. They know that they're not going to want to leave the dance floor. And in Canada at festivals, we have like site crisis domes where everyone is really well aware of the place that you take someone if they're having a bad trip. And I've been to a lot of festivals in America that don't have these kind of places. And I've seen people having a bad trip or just kind of freaking out a little bit too much for people around them, and maybe take their clothes off and run around like they're all free. And all of a sudden they're being dealt by cops. And if somebody is having a full ego melt and takes their clothes off and is running around and dancing, cops is not usually the best answer. You want to take them to a dome where there's blankets and people serving tea and talking you down really softly and calmly. That's what they do at Shambhala and festivals in British Columbia. And I know that there are laws in place in some places in the States that festivals are not allowed to have those domes because they feel that it promotes drug use. But I mean, we need to get to the point where we realize every festival is going to have drug use. It's not going away anytime soon. So it's good to give people an option. And the dance safe, the drug testing, and you know, if there is going to be something that is frowned upon, it's going to be like the big dealers that show up that aren't involved with the art and the music, and they're just there to make money and selling random powders and calling it Molly, and getting stuff like bath salts out of the scene, and you know, and promoting health and wellness first and foremost, and finding your center, and in a way that you can share and love people and be a strong role model in your community. And then after all that is in place, if you want to like let loose with, you know, a little something something on Saturday night during like a three set run of all your favorite artists, then you know your community's in place to know that you know you're all good and safe on that dance floor, and make sure you have lots of water and go for it.
That's great advice. Let's change gears here. Maggie Lane asked, what things in the everyday world are inspiring you when you're producing? Stephen, you're working on an album now, and I know, Rain, you just finished up Searching for Beauty in the Darkest Places Part 2. Stephen, what's inspiring you right now, especially when you sit down to write, or are you not really able to sit down to write unless you are inspired?
You know, what's inspiring me these days is doing my best to become more and more authentic with myself, and just kind of peeling away the layers and connecting to people and just being part of you know, a global wide movement of love. And there's a lot of things with my music and creativity that are up in the air. I just know for myself right now that I want to find more and more of my authentic journey and just connecting to that.
Rain, what was a driving force behind the second part of this album that you're creating? What's really been pushing you and letting you explore what you're trying to say through the music?
Just to touch on something you had said, the second half should be out by now, but because of the challenges we ran into on stage, it ate up the last 40 days prior to hitting the road that I was planning on finishing the release. So as soon as I get back, any of the chunks I have between these runs that we have, I'm going to be working feverishly to finish that, and I'll definitely be sharing that with the world as soon as it's available. But most of the songs are fairly finished, and I am playing them in my set, so you'll still get to hear them. The first half was really about, the title says it all. I was going through a lot of change, a lot of introspection, admitting some things to myself that were difficult, and I generally felt like they had to do with my shadow side. And so that's where the title came from, Searching for Beauty in the Darkest Places. It was also my most aggressive body of music to date, as a result of what was coming up for me during the time I wrote that. The second half is really more reflects, I think, the other half of that journey of the light side of coming into the light. There's still certainly aggression in the music, but I think overall it is more on the hopeful, uplifting light side of what I do, which I think creates a really good arc going from dark into light, from the first half into the second half. I'm certainly in a much better place personally and emotionally than I was when I wrote the first half, so I think that's being reflected in the music. And at first I was concerned. I thought, well, I'm in a totally different place. How is this going to translate? They're almost going to be like two totally different bodies of work. But then I realized that's, again, it's in the title. I feel like this is more about finding that beauty as opposed to searching for it. This is maybe I've found beauty in the darkest places might be a more apt description for the second body of work, but I think overall it fits for the whole story arc of the two pieces when you put them together.
That's fantastic. And Caeli, tonight I'll let you wrap up. When fans come out and see you in Minneapolis and the rest of the tour going forward, what should audiences be prepared for? Is it that balance that Rain is talking about, the beauty and the darkness? Is that really what you're what you're conveying with this show that you've set up, this stage show?
Yeah, I think that so much of what we're conveying is, or what we're really kind of exploring throughout the show is the dance between darkness and light, just sort of the whole range of humanity. That it's not just like pretty the whole time, or like full on just like upbeat and fun. Like sometimes we go pretty dark and really deep and emotional and intense, but it's like we're sort of riding these waves the whole time, like going really deep and then coming back up. And the visuals really reflect that. Our Evan Glantz, our visual guy, is just amazing. He's incredibly talented. He's been really working with us to convey that whole interplay of masculine and feminine, dark and light, future and primitive, technological and organic. We're obviously really fascinated by duality, polarities, and us just performing together ourselves we are a masculine and feminine polarity that's coming and playing together. So I think that just having that interplay between the two of us is in itself part of the performance, along with the visuals and also the way that I dance. That I'm really trying to tell that story through my movements. I'm really trying to to convey sort of the whole scope of feeling and the range of emotion that you go through on the dance floor, which is, so much of why we all come together for these events is for the, not just for the bliss and the fun, but also for the catharsis of it, for the healing element of it, all the stuff that comes up when you're shaking out your body and, and getting loose on the dance floor. It's like, it can be really intense. It can be really confronting. I think that what I'm trying to do personally on my end of the performance is give people permission to really get into that and to feel like, okay, this is like a safe space. I can really open up. I can really let it out. I don't have to worry about just looking good, or just trying to just, stay really like upbeat the whole time. It's like we're all coming together to really, to be really real, like to be like what Stephen was saying, to really. I think that we're all really committed to that authenticity, and I think hopefully that's what the show is about. That's what it's inspiring in people, is that authentic experience. And so yeah, I think that the dance between polarities and duality is a great way to really kind of illustrate the realness, the truth of the human experience.
To add to that too, I think that's where the whole idea of the Dance Out Your Demons game came from. That was the theme of the tour last time, and even though the theme of the tour is different, we still continue to allow people to join us in that game. You can go to the merch booth and write down a fear or a demon or something you're dancing into your life. Write that down on a piece of duct tape and stick it to the bottom of your shoe, and then come and dance it out on the dance floor. I feel like at some level that can help sort of set an intention, and throughout the night it's something you can reflect on as you're out there stomping it out. And I feel like it helps sort of again sort of bring some value, or some sort of change, or in some small way transformation through your attendance of the event. And it's so fun to see people. They get really excited. At first, when we came up with the idea, I was nervous about asking people if we could video or photograph them, because sometimes, in some cases, what you're writing down might be pretty personal, but the vast majority of the time, even if it's something dark or deep that they're trying to write out, they're very excited to share it, because like, yeah, I'm going to dance this out. I'm going to get some demons out. So, yeah, in regards to catharsis, it's one more way that we're trying to help people achieve that if they wish.
That's fantastic. And everybody can dance out their demons tonight in Minneapolis. The Searching for Beauty tour continues at the Loft doors at 9 o'clock with our friends at Infrasound Festival, who were so instrumental in helping to put together Trans.Missions, along with the help from Envision Festival and Sonic Bloom. Thank you so much for helping us pursue this community. We're trying to connect this transformational community at home, and we'll have more episodes soon, and fans will be able to revisit these discussions on the Unts.com's YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and until next time, take care of yourselves. We'll talk soon.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you.